Hey everybody! As I turned the video on, I noticed the rainbows dancing across my shirt and probably on the wall. Reminds me of my cat, Miss Kitty, who you may or may not have met. She turned 21 last May and left us a few weeks later. She was a blessing for 3 years in my home. And she loved playing with lights. When the sparkly rainbows would go, she would often be found pawing the wall and looking up at the reflections, enjoying that. And yeah, I'm here on this Sunday afternoon, March 30th, 2025. Happy Ramadan ending to all of those of you who are celebrating Ramadan. And today is, as far as I understand it, Eid is beginning. Did I say that right? Eid Mubarak. So happy Eid and happy Mother's Day, Mothering Day, whatever you call it. I heard in England you're celebrating that. So to all you people moms and cat moms and dog moms and whatever else, and for all of us, happy day. And I have chapter 4 of this delightful book, The Other World. The first title of this book was the Great Wave, the Big Wave, something like that, which gives you a clue of how it kind of starts. And The Other World, both are very fitting titles. So, with no further ado, I'll go into chapter 4. Chapters 1 to 3 are up on this channel already, and that's also available in a bookstore near you or online. So, chapter 4. The end of chapter 3 left us with the main person in the story recalling he's in a very interesting sort of place where his apartment he'd returned back to Paris where he'd been living from a visit to India where his wife and children had died some years back, and found his apartment trashed, totally trashed, robbed, whatever, everything thrown around. Basically, he just took a few things from there and left. And he says at this end of the last chapter, life is good despite all the other stuff, I thought, feeling grateful. It was springtime. He was sipping a strong black coffee out in a cafe, waiting to meet somebody. And then here he is sitting in the cafe. I was enjoying my wild strawberry when I heard a discreet honk on the street in front of me. It came from a fancy dark red Peugeot with elegant surfaces reflecting the sunshine. The driver's window slid down and Michael's voice received a face. They had spoken on the phone earlier. My fantasies about how people look from hearing their voices rarely match reality, but here I thought it was fitting. It was a positive first impression. He was smiling and his eyes were friendly. Jump in, he said. I climbed into the car, which welcomed me with the scent of fine leather. Hi, Michael, great to meet you, I said, stretching out my hand. He looked younger than the middle-aged man I had expected, but was probably older than he looked. His lively blue eyes were surrounded by fine laugh lines. He sported curly, predominantly dark blonde hair, which still retained the shine of youth. The grip of his hand was strong and energetic. I immediately liked him and relaxed into the comfortable passenger seat. How's it been going with your apartment and the police? You've brought some things? He asked, pointing at the bag on my lap. Yes, this is all I'll keep from there, I replied with a firmness in my voice which surprised me. My old life has left me. Apart from my memories, I retain very little of it. I'm sorry to hear that, Michael said. But with the risk of sounding corny, I would say that this is a great opportunity for a new beginning. I have only known Alma for 2 days, but I'm sure that she would have said the same. Alma is their mutual friend, a woman that he met, an Indian woman that he met in India. We both laughed, and I felt my spirits rise. Where are we going? What can you do for me? I think you need a new place to stay, as you can't stay at a hotel forever. I suggest you check out and get your things. I have a lovely apartment I can let you use for a while. There you will be more at ease. Okay, thank you, I said, readily accepting his generous offer, all the while admiring the car's wooden dashboard. We drove back to my hotel, and I quickly checked out. Soon we were on our way to what started to feel like new adventures. Curiosity and excitement had replaced my loneliness. I felt stronger, ready for whatever would come next. There was nothing to lose. The cup was empty. It could only be filled. We drove silently for a while and were leaving the Quartier Latin, the Latin Quarter, heading towards the Seine River, and it wasn't long before we reached its busy, sunlit banks. As the car glided effortlessly through the familiar scenery bathed in the bright sunlight, I enjoyed seeing the spectacular historical background of Paris. It was like seeing it all again for the very first time. And eventually we crossed the Seine and passed the Paris City Hall. We were heading towards the Bastille area, where the infamous prison that was stormed in the very beginnings of the French Revolution had once stood. But before we got there, Michael took a left turn into the Marais, one of the oldest and most picturesque areas of Paris. Paris. Cheers to Paris. Here we are, Michael said, when we finally turned into a rounded portal. A heavy gate swung open into a paved courtyard, revealing one of the old so-called private hotels dating from the 17th century. The massive door of the mansion opened, and a smartly dressed man came out and walked towards the car. His steps were oddly stiff and very regular, and he kept his body straighter than was natural. As he opened the car doors, making a nearly imperceptible bow with the head, I realized he must be the butler. He looked Japanese or Korean. I wasn't sure exactly, but he was surprisingly tall, nearly as tall as I. His black hair was cut short. His round face looked as if he were just only barely succeeding at looking serious. Bienvenue, monsieur, he said, taking my luggage in a swift gesture which left me no choice but to accept his assistance. May I introduce you to Chul, the guardian angel of this place? I was impressed by the sight of the old building and a genuine butler, the first I had ever met in person. You live here? I asked, letting my voice betray how impressed I was. Michael made a sweeping gesture encompassing the property. Yes, this is where I live and work. The house has been in my family for 6 generations. I consider myself the temporary custodian rather than the owner of this house. But please come in, you must be tired. We'll have plenty of time to chat later. He took my arm in an unusually friendly gesture, and we went the few steps up into the house. After walking through an artfully decorated lobby, I'm sure delightful as well, we came to a short hallway lined with mirrors leading to an elevator. Chul will take you to your accommodation on the 2nd floor, Michael said, opening an old-style sliding grid. We can meet later, whenever you're ready. I thanked my generous host, and the butler took me to what looked like a huge, luxurious suite comprising of a sitting room, bedroom, office, TV room, spacious bathroom, kitchen, and dining room. Though I appreciated the beauty of this place, I was starting to be a bit overwhelmed by its display of wealth. I was feeling apprehensive and suspicious, but realized the paradox that these people were actually helping me. I had an overwhelming sense of untold things that I did not know. I took a shower and lay down on a bed where a whole Indian extended family could have comfortably rested. I closed my eyes and let my many thoughts roam freely through my mind. What was I doing in this place? I had been rather detached and relaxed about my fate for the past hour or two. This unusual place had managed to shake the precarious balance I had barely had time to enjoy. After a while, I felt a bit calmer. When somebody knocked on the door, I reluctantly got up. It was the butler. "Is everything to your liking, monsieur?" "Yes, thank you," I replied. But then, as the man looked so friendly, I admitted, "I've not really managed to relax." His response was unexpected. "I believe, monsieur, that a good massage will help relieve the tensions in your body," he said, a huge smile spreading all over his Asian face. He had a calm and soothing presence, inviting trust. "Well, yes, I would certainly love a massage after these past few pretty crazy days. Do you have someone who does house visits?" "No need. Everybody and everything is already here. You can have a massage right away," he said as he opened a narrow wall cupboard which revealed a folded massage table and all the required accessories, which he swiftly set up right there in the suite's bedroom. "Please get ready and lie down." "You really are an extraordinary butler." "Who told you I'm a butler?" he chuckled. As Chul massaged my back, I felt a wild mixture of pain and pleasure. It was as if he were touching several layers of my body that were all dissolving under his hands. After a while, I felt like a floating, bodiless entity, barely feeling Chul making tiny movements along my spine. And suddenly, a flash of potent electric current jolted through my body. It nearly made me fall off the massage table. I screamed in pain as if I were on fire. I started to cough, feeling angry and frightened. "What did you do?" I yelled. "I'm sorry, monsieur. What happened?" Chul said, bringing me a glass of water. "You electrocuted me just like Alma did. Who are you guys?" I was still yelling. "I'm sorry, monsieur. This has never happened to me before." "That's exactly what Alma said when it happened." "Monsieur Luc, believe me that everything is okay. Take a rest. Whenever you want, you can come down to the lobby where Mr. Michael will meet you." I couldn't relax anymore. My heart was pounding, and I felt upset and worried. Who were these people who produced the incredible energy I had felt? I realized that after having been so immersed in the pain of my past, I had eagerly welcomed the diversion created by Alma and her friends. With a new resolve, I dressed and went down the stairway towards the lobby. The big mansion was silent. I seemed to be the only person in the whole building. A huge building. I saw Michael reflected in one of the mirrors of the lobby. He was sitting with a tablet in the corner behind a big marble column. I hesitated for a few moments, observing him, but he caught my eyes in the mirror and laughed, jumping up to greet me. "Hello, Luc. I had a feeling you would come. Please take a seat." He took my hand and guided me to a Louis XIV chair with intricately carved rounded legs and armrests. We looked at each other silently for a few long seconds. "I presume you have some questions," he said, as if he had just read my mind. Without waiting for an answer, he continued, "If it's okay with you, I'd like to take you for a ride." Take you on a ride, maybe is a better way to say it. "I'd like to take you on a ride." He stood up, barely giving me a chance to feel how uncomfortable the old chair had been. I saw in his eyes that he was evaluating me. It felt quite uncomfortable, as he had an intense, unapologetic presence. "Where would you like to take me?" I asked, my voice giving away the excitement and the anxiety I was feeling. Often we think, this is a side note for me with excitement and anxiety coming in one sentence, often when we think there's fear going on, which is what anxiety means, often it's excitement actually. Sometimes people around us, when we were small maybe, have said, when we were really excited about something, "Oh, don't be afraid, it's okay, it'll be all right. Don't be nervous." And there's a fine line between nervousness and excitement. Nervousness, which can be fear, nervousness, which can be excitement. Often it's excitement. So he was feeling a little bit of both, it seems. "I'd like to surprise you," said Michael. "I'd like to surprise you with an interesting place as an appetizer before we have lunch." The warm smile which came back to his face took away any doubts that may still have been lingering in the back of my mind. "That sounds good to me," I said, following him out of the house to his car. After a long drive through dense Parisian traffic, Michael parked the car in a street adjacent to the Boulevard Montmartre, if you want to see how it's spelled. "Where are we going?" I asked as I unlocked my seatbelt. "We are going to the Musée Grévin. Have you been there before?" "No, it's the famous wax museum. I've never been there." I trailed off as I nearly mentioned that my kids had been too young for that kind of place. We walked down the noisy boulevard and arrived at the rather small entrance of the museum. The mirrored walls of the hall were lined with life-size pictures of famous people. It looked more like the entrance of a music hall than a museum. Why are we here? Good question. Of all the places, why on earth would I bring you here? Michael replied, looking amused. I felt Michael's gaze as I pondered his question. This place is about famous people, about what they look like. So maybe you want to tell me that this is the answer. Sorry, this place is about famous people, what they look like. So maybe you want to tell me that you are different and tell me why I got electric shocks from Alma and Chul? I saw a flicker of reaction in his eyes. Yes, it's about all these things, he said, holding my gaze. And then he looked as if he were trying to figure out what to do next. He looked around as if trying to figure out what to do next. I want to know what this is all about, I exclaimed as I was becoming exacerbated with all of these mysteries. I said exacerbated and is written exasperated. Kind of, maybe the same. Exacerbate. To exacerbate something means make it more worse, like more intense. And exasperated is to be very, very frustrated. That's what the word is here, exasperated. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to know what all this is about? Knowing certain things will change you and your life forever. Once you know them, there will be no unknowing them, no turning back. His eyes had narrowed, lines appearing on his forehead. Yes, I replied. Life has cleaned my slate, brought me back to zero. I have nothing to lose. Michael nodded and continued. There is a reality that only a small number of people on earth are aware of. Are you interested? Yes. Right now, I'm drawn to it like a moth to the flame. Nice analogy, but I'll make sure not all of you gets burned away, he said with a smile and started to walk around. As you said, our little tour here is about us humans. What do you think makes us who we are? Our outer appearance, our inner sense of self, our memories, I ventured. And then I added, some people would say our souls. Why does a person look like she does? Michael asked, pointing at a famous French actress immortalized in wax. I guess it's about genes and about what the person has experienced and done in life, I replied, not exactly sure where this conversation was going. Yes, this seems a reasonable explanation, and it's also what your science tells you. Why do you say your science? I looked at him suspiciously. Do you have another science? Michael had a mischievous smile. Possibly, but that's not the point right now. Let's continue with our subject. He made a sweeping gesture. All of these figures are made from the same material. Their outer skin is of different kinds of wax. If we melted them, they would become some undefined, sticky liquid. But right now, these forms are recognizable, mainly because we know the people they represent. We have their patterns stored in our minds. Yes, that's quite obvious, I snapped, getting a bit impatient. Let's go to the workshop where they produce these guys. Michael led me away from the main exhibition into a narrow and dark hallway that led to a closed door. You seem to know your way, I said. Have you come with people like me before? Yes, a few times, he said, offering no further details. A big "Keep Out" sign in French did not stop Michael from opening the door. I followed him hesitantly into a big, messy-looking room. All around, there were work tables littered with an impressive number of tools. I distinguished electric metal cutters, manual drills, paintbrushes, pots of glue and paint. In the middle of the room, several humanoid figures were strapped on vertical holders. They were at different stages of development. The scene was unsettling for somebody unprepared for it, as, unlike stone sculptures, these had the color of human skin. Michael went to a life-size body at the center of the room. What impression do you get from this? He asked, pointing at the figure which only had the general shape of a human being. I took a minute to observe the rough sculpture just beginning to express the details of a human body. In some parts of the torso and the legs, a metallic structure not yet covered by the pinkish wax was visible. The head was already well formed, and the face merely hinted at what would become a nose, a mouth, and eyes. It's just a human shape without any precise details, I said, feeling like an intruder. Yes, it's like the early stage of a fetus, when you begin to see that it's human. What do you feel when you look at this body? Michael asked, touching the figure at the back of its head. Nothing much. It's lifeless. I only feel some curiosity about what it's becoming. Michael then turned and went over to another figure hidden in a corner near the door. It was covered by black fabric. This one is a special prototype. He waited a few seconds, creating dramatic anticipation. Then he slowly pulled at a corner of the velvety fabric. This is incredible, I replied, whispering on a long, slow exhale. Most of the wax people I had seen so far in the museum, the wax figures, were well made, but they had the distinct look of being wax figures. Many details felt just slightly off, and their body language didn't appear totally natural. But looking at the figure of Kate Blanchett in front of me, I almost expected her to continue her arm movement in support of something she was trying to tell me. My heart tightened as it took me instantly to a scene in The Lord of the Rings, the last movie I had seen with my wife. I've never seen anything like this, I said, unable to take my eyes off the actress's likeness. Michael nodded. The artist is a very special friend of mine. He wants to express the essence of a person. He paused, then added, it's part of a project to stimulate new awareness. A new awareness. What makes that amazing difference? I asked in a low voice. He taps into and connects with what you call the soul, the spirit part of the person. The unease and anger I was feeling in the morning were coming back. Why did you bring me here? I've had enough of going around in circles and not knowing anything about what's really going on. What's the point of all this? I stopped, out of breath, my face flushed. Michael looked at me, his clear eyes wide. This is exactly my point, and why I'm taking it slowly. I am preparing you for a big transition. Are we talking here about alien invaders and instantaneous travel through the galaxy? I asked, not able to keep the sarcasm out of my voice. As he laughed in a very disarming way. Disarming is an interesting word. It means, it makes you at ease. It's like soldiers are armed. They have their whatever, stand tall, whatever in front of their generals, captains, or whatever, and then the general says at ease, and then they can relax and stand in a different way. It's like his smile did that, kind of just made the situation at ease. He'd been kind of tense and upset and scared and whatever, and then Michael smiled and gave him an answer. Just gave him a smile. The laugh. As he laughed in a very disarming way, I could not help but smile. He was driving me crazy, but I had decided to trust the man. Why don't you just tell me? I have nothing to lose. You're not yet ready, and it's lunchtime. Let's go and have lunch. Then we'll talk and do some experiments. I did not ask what he meant by experiments. Some experiments, as I was glad to leave this creepy workshop. Back in the car, I closed my eyes and tried to relax. We hadn't spoken since leaving the workshop. I still instinctively trusted Michael, and I couldn't find anything that I disliked about the man. The personal vitality he radiated reminded me of Alma, with whom he had felt completely at ease. I was both apprehensive and excited at the prospect of discovering something new. We drove for a while and finally stopped at the Quai de la Tournelle. Quai, I think that's like at the harbor, at the coast, at the river, maybe. Yeah, next to the Seine River. A big door immediately opened in the elegant building in front of which we had parked. A uniformed porter came out to meet us and waited beside the car. We can't be going to the Tour d'Argent, I cried in alarm when I saw the restaurant's name. That's a posh, overpriced VIP restaurant for rich American tourists. My voice betrayed fear, as if it were genuinely a dangerous place. What's wrong with overpriced restaurants? Value is just a mind game, he replied, his tone nearly solemn. But that will cost a fortune just for a simple meal. That meal will not be simple. And anyway, I'm going to pay the bill. Relax. Far from relaxing, I became acutely aware of my clothes and my slightly unshaven chin. But I need to change before I can go into that kind of place. They will want me to wear a tie, I squeaked. Real VIPs don't change their clothes. They don't care about those details, Michael replied matter-of-factly. Easy for you to say, dressed as you are in a very casual Armani suit. It's not an Armani suit, he said with an amused grin. It's from Christian Dior, custom made. I looked at him incredulously, the tension evaporating, and we broke into a hearty laugh. I surrendered to the disarming charm of this man and his singular perspective on reality. It was consistent with the kind of place he called home. As we entered the restaurant on the upper floor, the chief waiter greeted Michael by name without even a glance at me, showing us to a table right in front of a huge window that had a gorgeous outlook on Notre Dame Cathedral. We settled down comfortably, enjoying the view. I took a miniature baguette from a small basket a waiter had just put on our table. I slowly broke the brown crust, revealing white bread inside. Michael handed me the butter and said, "This is a good time to connect and get to know each other. I'm really happy to hear about your recent experiences." The setting was gorgeous, and what I felt from Michael was only warmth and friendship. I took a deep breath and started to speak. Since I met Alma in India, crazy things keep happening. Things like an out-of-body experience and running from men looking like Secret Service agents. There was also a hug with Alma and a massage from Chul, which both gave me an incredible electric shock. And last but not least, the destruction of my apartment. I paused and looked into Michael's unblinking blue eyes. And I have a cat that wants to come in. Excuse me, just a minute. 30 minutes already, wow. Honey. So, here I am again. Marcus is in from the outside. I paused and looked into Michael's unblinking blue eyes. All this tells me that you are no ordinary people and that some other folks are trying to catch you. Something is different about you guys, and I have no clue what it is. Alma also spoke of another world. All of this is very mysterious. Michael looked squarely into my eyes with a gaze which held me captive and said, "These are indeed quite crazy things. From my perspective, they are uniquely linked to your person and how your life is unfolding. Highly unusual as they may be, I can nevertheless confirm that the electrical shocks you received are directly connected to what you call the other world." I interrupted Michael, shivers running down my spine. "And what about the wrecking of my apartment? Is that also related to that world?" Michael put his hand on my arm in what felt like a very friendly gesture. "It was a bad and strange thing that happened, but I'm quite sure that it's one of those synchronistic events that happen as an expression of life's own intelligence." "What do you mean by that?" "I mean that your life has started to move in a totally new direction, and that the destruction of your old home is a clear sign that there's no going back." "So what you're saying is that it's not related to the guys pursuing Alma and that it happened by pure coincidence?" "Luke, I can only say from my own life experience that life is much too big to allow for something like pure random chance." I looked at Michael sitting opposite me with an amazing view of the Notre Dame Cathedral as a background, and I felt that my life had indeed taken a very new and different direction. My rational mind could not agree, but my heart felt that what he had just said was true. Our conversation was interrupted by an invasion of waiters who carried cloche-covered plates, which they proceeded to theatrically unveil. Michael made a sweeping gesture toward the refined starters in front of us. Let's continue our conversation later. Now's the time to enjoy this lovely meal they have prepared for us. Thus ends chapter 4. Come back soon for continuing with chapter 5. And have yourself, until then, a wonderful day and good start into April very soon. Happy spring on the Northern Hemisphere and wherever you are. Take care.